Blake Morrison shoved Maya Torres to the floor as laughter exploded down the hallway. He thought he'd humiliated a shy new girl. 5 seconds later, she stood up, calm, steady, unflinching. What no one knew, she was a state karate champion and an undercover FBI agent sent to bring down the school's most protected bullies. The bell rang through the immaculate corridors of Westfield High, the kind of school where even the lockers gleamed and the walls smelled faintly of money. Students in designer sneakers and Letterman jackets drifted in clusters, laughing too loudly, whispering too sharply. Beneath the noise, there was another kind of silence, the kind built from fear and hierarchy. Everyone knew who ruled here. Maya Torres walked those halls like a shadow on glass. 17, slender, her uniform pressed and plain, she looked like the type who didn't belong, the scholarship kid, the outsider. Her dark curls framed a face too composed for her age. To most, she appeared quiet, a little nervous, someone easy to dismiss. But behind her stillness was a measured rhythm, the kind of control only years of martial discipline could teach. Every step, every glance was deliberate. It was only her second week at Westfield, and already she had learned the rules. The popular ones laughed the loudest. The teachers looked away, and at the top of it all stood Blake Morrison, the mayor's golden boy, star quarterback, the untouchable son of privilege. His smirk was currency. His word was law. That afternoon, the cafeteria buzzed with its usual chaos. Music from phones, trays clattering, gossip spreading faster than the smell of pizza. Maya sat alone at a corner table, quietly reading, her earbuds in but no sound playing. She liked hearing what others didn't think she could hear. Then Blake noticed her. Surrounded by his entourage, he nudged Tyler Brooks, whispering something that made them both laugh. Jessica Cole, his cheerleader girlfriend, pulled out her phone, camera already recording. "Hey, new girl," Blake called across the room, voice dripping with mock charm. "You lose your table or your friends?" Maya didn't answer. She lifted her eyes, calm, polite. That annoyed him. He stood, swaggering over, the red varsity jacket stretched across his shoulders like armor. "I'm talking to you," he said, leaning closer. "You deaf or just rude?" A few students began to watch. The noise level dropped, curiosity feeding on cruelty. Maya closed her book slowly, stood up, and looked him in the eye. Her voice was soft but steady. "I'm not rude. I just don't answer to noise." Gasps, laughter, and a few low oohs rippled through the crowd. Blake's smile faltered. No one talked to him that way. Not someone like her. "What'd you say?" he snapped, stepping forward. "Nothing worth repeating," she replied and turned to leave. He blocked her path. "You think you're better than us?" Her tone didn't change. "No, just different, and that was enough." His hand shot out, slapping the book from her grip. It hit the floor with a slap that echoed down the hall. Laughter exploded. Phones came up, recording. "Pick it up," Blake ordered, towering over her. Maya didn't move. Jessica's camera zoomed in. "Oh, this is going to go viral," she giggled. When Maya bent to retrieve her book, Blake shoved her shoulder. Hard. Her body tilted, but she didn't fall like he expected. She turned the motion into a roll, her hand slapping the tile to absorb impact, her knee bending in perfect control. She landed lightly, steady, her face unreadable. The laughter stopped for a split second, confused. Blake's grin widened, thinking he'd humiliated her. He didn't see what everyone else did. The precision of her movements, the grace that didn't belong to someone afraid. Maya stood, brushing imaginary dust from her uniform. She met his eyes, unflinching. Around them, whispers stirred. Something about the way she moved, the way she didn't look broken. Blake leaned closer, his grin returning. "Welcome to Westfield, Torres. You'll learn your place soon enough." Maya said nothing, but her stare held him for a beat too long, sharp and calm like the edge of a blade. Inside, her thoughts were steady, detached, professional. Profile confirmed. Aggressive pattern. Evidence easy to obtain. As Blake strutted back to his table, laughing with his friends, Maya exhaled quietly and adjusted her sleeve, hiding the faint scar on her wrist, the one shaped like the edge of an FBI badge. Her gaze lingered on him one last time. "You just made my job easier." By Monday morning, the video of Maya's fall had already circulated through every phone in Westfield High. Not the full moment, just the edited version. The clip started with Blake laughing and ended with Maya on the floor, her face frozen mid-blink. The comments were brutal. Scholarship chick got what she deserved. Stay in your lane. It spread fast, fuel for Westfield's obsession with hierarchy. In the classrooms, teachers pretended not to notice the snickers. The school had its golden boy to protect. Blake Morrison wasn't just any student. He was the mayor's son, the symbol of Westfield's elite excellence. Principal Anderson often called him a model for leadership, his smile tightening whenever anyone mentioned Blake's temper. The staff walked carefully, like people who knew which family paid for their jobs. Maya kept her eyes forward, her demeanor calm, but every detail around her registered like data, the angle of the cameras, the proximity of teachers, the blind spots where bullying could happen unseen. Her gaze tracked one camera above the lockers, its red light off. Another, near the cafeteria, pointed conveniently at the ceiling. When the hallway emptied, she lingered near the counselor's office, casually taking a photo of the out-of-service sticker taped to yet another security cam. It was the fourth one she'd found offline. Her instincts prickled. This wasn't coincidence, it was maintenance by design. In history class, Sarah Collins sat 2 seats over. A thin girl with large glasses and a journalist's curiosity, she had that hesitant kindness that came from watching injustice too often without power to stop it. During group work, she leaned slightly toward Maya and whispered, "You shouldn't have stood up to him." Maya didn't look up from her notebook. "Why not?" Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. "People who do transfer." Maya paused, pretending to write, but her pulse slowed in focus. "Transfer?" Sarah nodded, glancing around nervously. Last semester, a kid named Evan tried to report Blake for fighting. His parents got a call about academic dishonesty. 2 days later, he was gone. No record he ever attended here. Maya's pencil moved smoothly across the paper, but what she was writing wasn't class notes. Possible evidence suppression. Pattern of administrative retaliation. Source, student. Collins. S. Verify. The rest of the day passed in the strange haze of teenage politics, fake smiles, whispered gossip, and teachers who smiled too widely when Blake entered a room. Every eye turned to him like a reflex. He soaked it in. The quarterback, the leader, the untouchable son of the city's most powerful man. But when he caught Maya's glance from across the cafeteria, something about her unnerved him. She wasn't glaring or cowering, just watching, calm, focused, like someone taking mental notes. That night, in the small studio apartment provided under her scholarship, Maya locked the door and opened her encrypted phone. She connected a small adapter, downloading the photos she'd taken of the security cameras. Her screen glowed with coded data before converting to a secure text feed. Agent Torres, 1944. PM. Subject Morrison matches behavioral red flags, intimidation, social dominance, potential coercion linked to administrative compliance. Evidence gathering initiated. End transmission, she pressed send. The file was encrypted and disappeared into the secure FBI server. Her reflection lingered faintly in the dark glass. Steady, unreadable, a memory surfaced. Her sensei's quiet voice in a sunlit dojo years ago. The hardest battle isn't fought with fists, Maya. It's fought with silence. The moments when you want to speak but must wait. Observe. Listen. Truth speaks loudest when the noise dies down. She smiled faintly, remembering the feel of the dojo mat under her bare feet. The way her master's patience taught her that strength wasn't about striking, it was about holding. Back in Denver, she reached for her notebook. Its spine was cracked from Blake's shove, pages torn at the edges. She taped it carefully, piece by piece as if rebuilding something sacred. Each strip of tape caught the lamplight, sealing her quiet determination. Her final note on the inside cover read in small, neat letters, "Tomorrow, we start fighting smart." The next morning, the halls of Westfield High gleamed with the same artificial perfection, rows of pastel lockers, polished tiles reflecting light like glass. It looked peaceful, but Maya had learned that beauty here was a disguise. Beneath the shine was rot. She walked through the corridor with deliberate calm, her backpack slung over one shoulder. She knew Blake's group would be waiting. They always were. Predictable patterns were the easiest to trap. Sure enough, near the trophy case, Blake leaned against the lockers with his usual entourage. Tyler Brooks, the muscle without brains, and Jessica Cole, the queen of gossip, her phone already recording before anything even happened. Around them, students slowed, pretending to check their phones, pretending not to watch. The morning's entertainment was about to begin. "Look who decided to show up," Tyler said loudly, his grin sharp and dumb. "You sure you want to risk round 2, Torres?" Maya adjusted her strap, saying nothing. She had learned that silence unsettled bullies more than words ever could. Blake straightened, flashing that mayor's son smirk. "Relax, Ty. She's probably learned her lesson. Haven't you, Maya?" She looked up at him, expression unreadable. "I learn fast," Jessica laughed. "Ooh, look who's getting brave." Maya kept walking. But Blake wasn't finished. As she passed, he extended his foot, an old trick, lazy and cruel. Only this time, she saw it coming. In a single, seamless movement, Maya shifted her weight, turning slightly so his legs sliced through empty air. He stumbled forward, catching himself awkwardly against the lockers. The sound echoed down the hall. A dull metallic clang followed by stunned silence. Then came the gasps. Maya didn't gloat, didn't even look surprised. She simply turned back and said softly, "You should watch your stance. You're too heavy on your right foot." For a heartbeat, everything froze. Blake's confidence faltered. His eyes narrowed, searching hers, suddenly unsure. That wasn't a lucky dodge. That was precision. He'd been studying, reading like a book. Jessica lowered her phone slightly, the excitement in her face dimming to confusion. Maya gave a faint smile, controlled, disarming, and walked away. But her locker was doing its real job. Inside the half-open door, nestled among her notebooks, was a sleek black pen angled just right to capture the scene. A recording device, disguised, its tiny lens blinking once before returning to standby mode. Every word, every shove, every mocking laugh had been caught on video. She passed Sarah in the crowd, who gave her a worried look. Maya's calm expression didn't waver, but her eyes said, "Trust me." By the end of the day, Blake's arrogance had twisted into frustration. He hated that she hadn't reacted. He hated that the laughter afterward wasn't as loud. For the first time, he wasn't sure he was winning. That night in her apartment, Maya replayed the footage. Her desk was lined with pages of notes and timestamps, her pen tapping rhythmically against the table. She listened to Blake's voice through the tiny speaker, laughing, threatening, muttering about making her regret it. But then another voice came through, one she hadn't noticed earlier. A boy's voice trembling. "Please, Blake, I don't want trouble." It was another student. Evan's name came up faintly in the background. A ghost of someone who'd transferred. Her jaw tightened. The sound of fear in that boy's voice brought a flicker of memory. Herself, years ago, a target before she had learned to fight back. Before the Bureau found her potential and turned her pain into purpose. She paused the recording, closing her eyes. Not again. She plugged in her encrypted transmitter, opening a secure channel. Agent Torres. 22:37 p.m. Subject Morrison continues targeted harassment. Confirmed verbal threats toward multiple peers. Secondary victim evidence captured. Forwarding for cross-verification. Request database match for Evan H. from Westfield Records. Possible forced transfer. She hit send and leaned back, the glow from the laptop reflecting in her eyes. Outside, the city lights flickered against her window, tiny dots of truth waiting to be uncovered. Her fingers traced the small scar near her wrist again, a reminder of the first case she ever worked, of a kid who didn't survive because no one acted fast enough. She wasn't going to let history repeat itself. When she finally closed her notebook, she wrote at the top of a new page, "Tomorrow, pressure test. Push him until he slips." Then, beneath it, in smaller letters, "For every kid who couldn't fight back." The sound of sneakers squeaking on polished gym floors echoed through the empty hallway. The evening sun cut through the high windows, streaking gold across the floor as the locker room doors slammed one by one. Practice was over, but not for Blake Morrison. He was waiting. When Maya stepped out, her duffel slung over her shoulder, she saw him leaning against the wall near the trophy case. Alone this time, his smile was thin, tight, an edge behind the charm. "Well, if it isn't the scholarship superstar," he said, voice low but dripping with sarcasm. "Heard you've been showing off." "Not smart." Maya didn't slow her stride. "Just walking, Blake. You should try it sometime." Quietly, he stepped in front of her, blocking her path. His voice sharpened. "You think being tough makes you one of us? You'll never belong here." She met his eyes, steady as steel. "I don't need to belong," she said softly. That small answer, calm, measured, infuriated him more than any insult could have. His face twisted and he leaned closer, his tone dropping to a growl. "You don't know who you're messing with. My family built this place. People like you should be grateful we let you in." Her expression didn't change. But in her mind, numbers clicked. Verbal abuse recorded, 48 seconds. Camera angle, clear. The pen camera pinned to her bag strap caught everything. The sneer, the words, even the slight shake in his voice when he said, "family." Fear hiding behind arrogance. She tilted her head slightly as if studying him. "You talk too much," she said quietly. Blake blinked, confused, and for the first time, she walked away while he stood still. Later that evening, Maya met Sarah in the journalism lab, the one room no one paid attention to after hours. Old computers hummed faintly as Sarah's fingers flew across the keyboard, her screen filled with school server logs. "I found something," Sarah whispered. "You were right. There's a pattern. Reports about Blake and Tyler disappearing from the system. Like entire files deleted." Maya leaned closer. "When?" Sarah clicked through the records. "Every time someone complained about them. Look at this. Timestamps match emails from Principal Anderson's account. On the screen, subject lines appeared like wounds reopening. Incident report. Brooks altercation. Delete copy. Morrison behavior. Handled privately per mayor's office." Maya's eyes narrowed. "Handled privately," Sarah swallowed hard. "It gets worse. There's an encrypted message trail. Anderson sent donation reports to the mayor's re-election committee right after each incident was closed. Maya's pen tapped the desk twice, a signal of realization. "Cover-ups for cash," Sarah nodded. "You think the FBI will take that?" "They will," Maya said quietly. "But we need one more link. Something that ties Anderson directly to a suppressed complaint." Sarah hesitated. "That's dangerous." Maya gave her a faint smile. "So is silence." Later that night, in the dim reflection of the restroom mirror, Maya washed her hands slowly, letting the water run over her wrists. The fluorescent light flickered once, catching the faint scar there, a reminder of the first case she ever cracked. She looked up at herself, eyes tired but resolute. The hallway outside was empty, silent except for the hum of distant vents. Her whisper broke the quiet. "If truth is a weapon, it's time to use it." She dried her hands, slipped the recording pen into her pocket, and walked out, her reflection left staring back, as if another version of her remained behind. The calm before the storm. Monday morning at Westfield High buzzed with the usual chaos. Lockers slamming, sneakers squeaking, laughter bouncing off the tiled walls. But beneath the noise, something tense lingered in the air. Everyone had heard the rumors. Blake Morrison had lost his temper again, this time with the new girl. Maya walked calmly through the crowd, her black hoodie zipped, earbuds in though no music played. Every sense was sharp, every step deliberate. Her mission was nearly complete. One more move, and the entire house of lies would collapse. Blake appeared at the far end of the hallway, his jaw tight, eyes blazing. Tyler and Jessica trailed him, whispering nervously. Dozens of students turned, sensing the tension before it erupted. "Maya!" Blake's voice cut through the noise. "You been talking to reporters?" She stopped, turning slowly. Her voice was even. "Why?" "Nervous about what they'll find." The crowd's murmur deepened. Cameras lifted, phones tilted. Blake's face flushed red. "Don't play with me, Torres. You think you can ruin my life? You don't know who you're messing with." He strode forward, closing the distance in seconds, and grabbed her shoulder roughly. The impact made her notebook fall to the floor, pages scattering like white feathers. But before he could shove her again, Maya moved. It was so fast most people didn't understand what they'd seen. 1 second his hand was gripping her shoulder. The next he was spun around, his wrist locked. his body pinned hard against the lockers with a metallic clang. Gasps erupted through the hallway. Her stance was flawless, centered, balanced. One arm held Blake in a firm joint lock, the other steady at her side. She wasn't angry. She wasn't even breathing hard. Her calmness frightened everyone more than violence could. "Rule 1 of karate," she said softly, her voice carrying over the stunned silence. "Never start a fight." Blake struggled, his pride more bruised than his body. "Get off me." "Rule 2, she continued, tightening her grip just enough for him to feel the warning. "Always finish it." The phones were out now, dozens recording, streaming. The same students who had once laughed at her fall now stared in awe. Jessica's voice trembled. "Blake, stop. Everyone's filming." He yanked himself free, glaring at Maya, his ego shattered in front of his kingdom. "You'll regret this," he spat. Maya met his fury with something colder, certainty. "No," she said simply. "You will." And then she turned, gathering her papers with steady hands while Blake stood there, humiliated under the glow of every phone camera. The crowd parted for her like water, the silence thick with the weight of a power shift no one could undo. As she walked away, her phone vibrated in her pocket. A single text from Sarah flashed on the screen. "It's ready. The file's going live." Maya didn't smile, didn't look back. She kept walking, her pace even as students whispered in her wake. Behind her, Blake shouted her name, his voice cracking under panic. But the sound no longer mattered, because in the next few minutes, every device in that hallway would buzz with breaking news, confidential emails, recordings, and camera footage. Evidence of years of corruption and cover-ups at Westfield High. And when the truth hit the world, Blake wouldn't just be the school's golden boy anymore. He'd be the headline. Maya pushed open the door to the courtyard, the sunlight washing over her face. For a moment, she exhaled. Not victory, just resolve. Her mission wasn't finished yet, but the world was finally watching. The auditorium hummed with the forced cheer of a school used to polishing bad news into trophies. Parents filled the front rows, teachers lined the aisles with practiced smiles. A banner reading Westfield Pride sagged from the stage. Principal Anderson stood at the podium flanked by Blake, who wore the wounded but defiant expression of someone convinced the crowd still belonged to him. He spoke in calm, rehearsed cadences about community, respect, and due process. The plan was obvious. Frame Maya's public restraint as misconduct, protect the star athlete, and quiet the whispers before they grew teeth. Maya sat near the back, Sarah at her side, both of them outwardly composed. The files were already in motion, encrypted, time-stamped, and routed through a secure channel so that the minute the assembly began, a mirror stream would push copies to any device that pulled the public feed. Sarah's fingers hovered over the laptop in her lap, ready. The auditorium's projector light hummed, waiting for a cue the principal expected to control. Anderson smiled into the mic. "We must be careful not to escalate. This is a school, not a courtroom. There are procedures. We will follow them." His eyes flicked up, politely cold, toward the balcony where a handful of parents shifted uncomfortably. "For the safety of our students, disciplinary measures will be handled internally." Blake gave a thin nod, trying to look magnanimous. Tyler and Jessica flanked him like mirrors, smirks fixed, phones tucked against their chests. The atmosphere felt brittle, like glass stretched too thin. Maya rose from her seat with the slow certainty of someone who has rehearsed the moment 1,000 times in her head. She walked to the stage as if through a fog, but each step was deliberate. Students whispered. A few parents frowned. Anderson's polite smile tightened. He stepped forward. "Maya." She didn't stop. At center stage, she set her phone on the lectern, tapped a sequence, and connected to the projector. The auditorium went quiet, anticipation, curiosity, but the silence was about to be split open. First, a low, recorded voice came through the speakers, Blake's, laughing, clipped between words. "Make her sorry. Make her miss a week. Make sure she knows who runs this school." Then Jessica's bright, callous laughter. Then a voice all too familiar, Anderson's, calm, professional, but unmistakable as he relays instructions. "Delete the clip. Make it look like a system error. Just file it as resolved internally. And tell the mayor's office we handled it." The sound of that last line landed like a grenade. For a beat, the world inside the auditorium narrowed to the 3 words: the mayor's office. Phones raised in unison as students and parents reached for screens. The initial silence fractured. A ripple of confused gasps turned into a stunned, rising murmur. Anderson's hand flew to the lectern. "That's impossible," he said, voice shaking despite himself. He waved a hand and barked at a technician near the soundboard. "Cut the feed. Cut it now." His calm evaporated into panic. But the feed was already elsewhere. Sarah's mirror server had pushed the audio and video to multiple platforms in under 10 seconds. A dozen students began streaming the footage live. Dozens more screens lit up with the same damning loop. The auditorium's projector showed Blake's threats again, larger now, the words indelible across the stage. Teachers blinked, parents stood, and students who had once laughed now watched their friends' faces contort with disbelief. "Blake's is?" Face went from fury to the pallor of a man realizing his protection had evaporated. He lunged forward, but hands, firm, official hands, stopped him. At that exact moment, a hush fell and the main doors of the auditorium opened. Agent Patricia Martinez stepped in, badge flashing, flanked by 2 agents in plain clothes. The room seemed to inhale as people recognized the authority and the reality that had been building under the school's curated surface. The agent's presence was immediate accountability, a legal thunderclap in a place taught to trade favors and mend reputations. Agent Martinez's voice was steady, filling the space without needing a microphone. "I am with the FBI. This assembly is now part of an active investigation. Nobody is to leave the building." She read names: Blake Morrison, Tyler Brooks, Jessica Cole, Principal Anderson, and the crowd reacted with a sound that was part gasp, part cheer. Phones recorded the scene now in a new, public way. Maya stepped forward from behind the lectern as Anderson tried to stammer explanations. She met his eyes, calm and unflinching in a way that made the calculated, cultivated authority beside her look transparently small. The microphone caught her voice cleanly. "You wanted everyone to see me fall. Now they'll see you fall harder." Silence slammed back into the room, heavier this time with realization, not complicity. The auditorium pulsed with the click of endless record buttons and the rustle of people standing to watch justice, at long last, begin to move. The once spotless hallway now pulsed with chaos and sirens. The same corridor where Maya had been shoved only days before was crowded with agents, students, and teachers frozen in disbelief. FBI officers in navy jackets moved with purpose, their radios crackling. Blake Morrison stood at the center, wrists cuffed, face red with outrage and disbelief. "You can't do this," he shouted, twisting against the grip of an agent. "Do you know who my father is? He'll bury all of you." Agent Patricia Martinez didn't even flinch. She looked him dead in the eye, her voice cool and cutting. "Then we'll just dig deeper." The hallway rippled with gasps and whispers. Tyler Brooks and Jessica Cole were next, led out past the lockers where they'd once laughed. Jessica sobbed, mascara streaking down her face. Tyler muttered excuses about just going along. But the agents were unmoved, each charge read aloud for the crowd to hear: harassment, conspiracy, obstruction of justice. Principal Anderson stumbled as 2 agents escorted him past the trophy case. His face was pale, his authority dissolved. He kept repeating, "This is a misunderstanding. I was following orders from the mayor's office." No one listened. The school's model of control and order was collapsing, and the students knew it. Around them, phones filmed everything: Blake's rage, Anderson's protests, the cold professionalism of the FBI. Every detail streamed across social media in real time, the image of power flipped on its head. Sarah pushed through the crowd until she found Maya standing near the wall where she'd once been shoved. For the first time, the hallway didn't feel like a cage. It felt like justice had finally walked in. Sarah threw her arms around her, voice trembling. "You did it, Maya. You really did it." Maya's expression softened, the adrenaline finally fading. "No," she said quietly, glancing at Sarah. "We did. Students nearby began clapping, hesitant at first, then louder until the sound filled the corridor. Some cheered, others cried, and a few simply watched, processing the truth that the system protecting their bullies was finally cracking open. Down the hall, Agent Martinez approached Maya. "Your work here is done," she said, her tone shifting from authority to respect. "You held your ground better than most seasoned agents." Maya gave a faint smile. "Just another mission, right?" "Maybe," Martinez replied, "but this one mattered." Outside, media vans were already pulling up to the gates. The world was watching now, the story spreading beyond Westfield. Within hours, headlines flashed across every network. Mayor's son, arrested in FBI sting. School cover-up exposed. By afternoon, a second wave of reports hit. New evidence linking Senator Morrison, Blake's grandfather, to a larger network of campaign donations and education fund manipulation. Federal investigators announced an expanded probe. The corruption went higher than anyone had imagined. As the crowd began to thin, Maya slipped into an empty classroom. The quiet felt strange after the storm. She pulled out her encrypted phone and opened the secure channel. Operation Shield. Mission report. Status: successful. Subjects detained: 4 primary, 6 secondary. Evidence transfer complete. Next target identified. She paused before typing the last line, her reflection faint in the dark screen. End of Phase 1. Sliding the phone back into her pocket, Maya stepped into the sunlight spilling through the windows. The hallway that once witnessed her humiliation now stood as the first battlefield she'd conquered. And somewhere beyond Denver, another school, another system, was already waiting for her to walk through its doors. Weeks passed, and Westfield High felt like a different world. The whispers of fear that once filled the hallways had been replaced by open laughter, bright murals, and new beginnings. Principal Anderson's office was empty, his nameplate gone, replaced by a plaque reading, "Integrity restores trust." A new principal, a woman with a history of fighting for youth reform, had taken over, launching a mentorship and anti-bullying initiative named after the girl who had changed everything, the Maya Torres Empowerment Program. Maya had returned to her rhythm, the quiet one she'd always known. The headlines had faded, but her purpose hadn't. In a sunlit Denver dojo, she bowed before her sensei. The air smelled of sweat, bamboo, and calm discipline. They sparred in silence, movements fluid and precise. When they finished, he smiled, bowing deeply. "You've learned control beyond combat, Maya. Real strength isn't in the strike, it's in the stillness after." She bowed in return, breathing evenly. "I know," she said softly. "And sometimes, silence speaks louder than any fight." Cut to FBI headquarters, an empty conference table at dusk. On it lay 2 items side by side. Maya's silver FBI badge and her black karate belt. Both symbols of discipline, both earned through years of endurance. At Westfield, Sarah sat in the new media lab, her voice steady as she recorded the school's first podcast episode. "They thought they could break her," she said, the mic catching every word. Instead, she broke their silence. Outside, Maya walked down the same hallway where her story began. No crowd, no whispers, just quiet confidence in each step. "Justice isn't about revenge," she murmured. "It's about balance." The camera panned up to the banner above her. Strength through respect. Her footsteps faded into the light. Another mission waiting, another truth ready to be uncovered.